Some films age like fine wine. Labyrinth isn't one of them. It was already timeless from the start. Behind its fantasy surface lies a production filled with creative risks, last-minute changes, and secrets most viewers never noticed. From a chaotic script to casting decisions that nearly went in completely different directions, this 1986 classic hides far more than meets the eye. What you're about to discover goes beyond trivia. These are the hidden layers even devoted fans have missed for decades. And it all begins with one shocking truth. The Goblin King almost never existed as we know him. Number 1. The Goblin King almost looked elsewhere. Before David Bowie slipped into that iconic blonde wig, the Goblin King was imagined as something entirely different. Early concepts envisioned Jareth as a fully puppet-based creature, not a human performer at all. Jim Henson initially wanted the character to blend seamlessly with the Goblin world, which meant exploring non-human designs that would have changed the film's entire emotional core. When the search for a human performer began, several famous names circled the role. Michael Jackson was reportedly considered, and Sting's name came up during early discussions. But it was Bowie who captured Henson's imagination, not just as an actor, but as a creative force who could bring music, danger, and seduction to the part. His involvement didn't just fill the role, it completely transformed it. Once Bowie signed on, Jareth's presence in the story expanded dramatically. Songs were written specifically for him, and scenes were reworked to give the Goblin King more screen time. What began as a mysterious villain became something far more complex, a magnetic, theatrical antagonist who would define the film's legacy. Without Bowie, Labyrinth would have been an entirely different movie. Number 2. A script that changed 25 times. Getting the story right nearly broke the production before cameras ever rolled. The screenplay went through an astonishing number of revisions. Some estimates suggest over 24 drafts were written and rewritten. Each version pulled the tone in a different direction, leaving Jim Henson caught between competing visions of what the film should be. Terry Jones of Monty Python fame wrote an early draft that leaned heavily into absurdist humor. His version was playful and strange, but Henson felt it didn't capture the emotional weight he wanted. Elaine May later contributed uncredited rewrites, helping to sharpen the story's heart. The tension between whimsy and genuine feeling became the production's central creative battle. What finally emerged was a delicate balance, funny but not silly, dark but not cruel. The finished script honored Sarah's emotional journey while keeping the fantastical chaos intact. That balance didn't come easily. It was forged through exhausting collaboration, creative disagreements, and Henson's stubborn refusal to settle for something that didn't feel true. Number 3. Hollywood fought for the role of Sarah. Landing the lead role in a Jim Henson fantasy was the kind of opportunity young actresses dreamed about. Casting calls drew an enormous pool of talent, including several names who would later become major stars. The competition was fierce, and the production team screened countless auditions, searching for the right combination of youth, vulnerability, and strength. Here, like sub-animation, among those who reportedly auditioned were Helena Bonham Carter and Sarah Jessica Parker. Both were rising talents at the time, and either could have taken the film in a different direction. But Jennifer Connelly, just 15 years old with limited experience, brought something the others didn't: an unguarded, emotional honesty that felt completely real. Connelly's youth became an asset rather than a limitation. Her performance captured the awkward space between childhood and adulthood, which was exactly what Sarah's journey required. A more polished actress might have played the role with confidence, but Connelly's sincerity made Sarah's transformation feel earned. That authenticity became the movie's emotional anchor. Number 4. A lawsuit that nearly killed the film. Production was already underway when a legal threat emerged that could have ended everything. Author Maurice Sendak, beloved creator of Where the Wild Things Are, raised concerns about similarities between his work and the film's concept. A young protagonist navigating a world of fantastical creatures ruled by a powerful king, the parallels were difficult to ignore. The dispute centered on story elements that echoed Sendak's classic picture book. Lawyers became involved, and for a tense period, the entire production hung in the balance. Shutting down would have meant enormous financial losses and the collapse of Henson's ambitious vision. The situation required delicate negotiation. Ultimately, an agreement was reached. Sendak received an acknowledgement in the film's credits, and production continued without further legal obstacles. The resolution allowed Labyrinth to survive, but the close call revealed how fragile big-budget fantasies could be. One unresolved dispute nearly erased the movie from existence before audiences ever saw it. Number 5. The title almost wasn't Labyrinth. Naming a film might seem simple, but finding the right title proved surprisingly difficult. Jim Henson cycled through numerous options, none of which captured exactly what he wanted. The movie needed a name that promised adventure, mystery, and emotional depth, all in a single word or phrase. Early working titles failed to stick. Some felt too generic, while others leaned too heavily into fantasy cliches. Henson wanted something that would intrigue audiences without giving away the story's secrets. The title had to evoke the twisting, disorienting journey at the film's core, while remaining memorable and marketable. Labyrinth eventually won out, because it captured both the literal and metaphorical heart of the story. Sarah's path through the maze mirrored her internal struggle, confusing, frightening, and ultimately transformative. The title promised exactly what the film delivered, a winding journey where nothing is quite what it seems, and finding your way requires losing yourself first. Number 6. Darth Vader opened the first day. The first day of principal photography began with an unexpected visitor. Before a single scene was captured, the towering black figure of Darth Vader appeared on set to offer good luck wishes to the cast and crew. It was a surreal moment that blended two fantasy worlds in a way nobody anticipated, leaving everyone momentarily stunned. The man beneath the helmet wasn't David Prowse. It was a gesture arranged through George Lucas, who served as executive producer on the film. Lucas and Jim Henson shared deep mutual respect, having collaborated previously and supported each other's ambitious visions over the years. Sending Vader was Lucas's way of blessing the production before its difficult journey began. For the crew, the moment carried symbolic weight. They were about to embark on one of the most technically demanding shoots of their careers, surrounded by puppets, elaborate sets, and unpredictable challenges at every turn. Having cinema's most iconic villain wish them well felt like an omen of good fortune. It injected humor and warmth into what would become an exhausting, but ultimately unforgettable production. Number 7. Bowie acted against silent goblins. Performing opposite puppets presented unique challenges, but one obstacle stood out above the rest. During filming, the goblins surrounding David Bowie were completely silent on set. Their dialogue was recorded separately and added in post-production, leaving Bowie to act against mute creatures with no verbal cues to guide his reactions or timing. The technique was necessary because puppeteers couldn't voice their characters while simultaneously operating complex mechanisms. This meant Bowie never knew which goblin was supposed to be speaking during any given moment. He had to imagine the chaos around him, reacting to conversations that existed only in the script pages he'd carefully memorized beforehand. What could have been a disaster became a subtle performance triumph. Jareth's visible frustration with his incompetent goblin subjects feels completely authentic, because in many ways, it genuinely was. Bowie channeled the real disorientation of performing in silence into his character's simmering impatience. That exasperation audiences see on screen came from a very real and unexpected place. Number 8. The ballroom dance has a sci-fi link. The dreamlike ballroom sequence remains one of the film's most mesmerizing and visually stunning moments. Sarah drifts through masked dancers while Jareth pursues her, and the choreography creates an atmosphere that feels hypnotic and deeply unsettling. What most viewers don't realize is that the movement design came from someone who would later make her mark in an entirely different universe. Gates McFadden choreographed the sequence, crafting the flowing, surreal movements that make the scenes so distinctive and memorable. She approached the work not as traditional dance but as emotional expression through motion. Every gesture was designed to reflect Sarah's confusion and Jareth's predatory pursuit, turning the glittering ballroom into a psychological trap. Years later, McFadden would become famous for an entirely different role, Dr. Beverly Crusher on Star Trek: The Next Generation. Her contribution to the film often goes unnoticed, overshadowed by her successful later acting career. But the ballroom's haunting atmosphere exists because of her unique vision, connecting fantasy and science fiction through one remarkable and versatile artist. Number 9. The shaft of hands was real danger. One of the film's most memorable sequences shows Sarah falling through a dark shaft, caught and passed along by dozens of grabbing hands. The scene looks fantastical on screen, but for Jennifer Connelly, the danger was absolutely real and genuinely frightening. She performed the sequence in a genuine harness, suspended high above the studio floor with minimal protection. The setup required incredible coordination between multiple departments. Puppeteers controlled the hands from hidden positions, while Connelly hung in mid-air, trusting her safety to rigging and precise timing. The height was significant, and any mistake could have resulted in serious injury. There were no digital safety nets. Everything depended entirely on physical precision. Connelly's visible unease during the scene isn't entirely performance. The discomfort of hanging in a harness for extended takes, surrounded by grasping puppet hands in dim lighting, translated directly onto film. That authenticity is part of what makes the sequence so effective and unsettling. Audiences sense something genuine beneath the fantasy, even if they can't identify exactly what it is. Number 10. The Goblin song nearly broke the crew. The magic dance sequence looks effortless. Bowie singing and dancing surrounded by chaotic goblins in joyful, infectious mayhem. Behind the cameras, however, the production was anything but effortless. The scene required an army of performers working in perfect coordination, pushing practical effects to their absolute breaking point and beyond. Dozens of puppeteers crowded beneath the set, each controlling different goblin movements while remaining completely invisible to the camera. The choreography demanded precise timing between Bowie's energetic performance, puppet manipulation, and camera movement. Every take required resetting countless elements, and the slightest mistake meant starting the entire process over from scratch. The sequence took far longer to film than anyone had originally anticipated. Crew members worked exhausting hours, tempers frayed under pressure, and the technical demands tested everyone's patience repeatedly. But the result justified every moment of struggle. Magic Dance became one of the movie's most beloved moments, a triumph of practical filmmaking that modern CGI still struggles to match in warmth, charm, and personality. Number 11. Jareth's juggling was an illusion. Those mesmerizing crystal ball tricks remain some of the most iconic imagery in the entire film. Watching Jareth manipulate the spheres with fluid grace, audiences naturally assumed David Bowie had mastered an impressive new skill for the role. The reality, however, was far more ingenious and required an extraordinary act of trust between two performers. Bowie never actually touched the crystals during those famous sequences. Behind him, hidden from the camera's view, professional juggler Michael Moschen performed every manipulation blindly. He couldn't see what he was doing, working entirely by feel while reaching around Bowie's body. The angle had to be perfect, and any mistake would have shattered the illusion completely. The collaboration required remarkable patience and coordination from both men. Moschen practiced extensively to perform without visual feedback, while Bowie had to remain perfectly still and time his expressions to movements he couldn't predict. The result looks effortless on screen, which is precisely why so few viewers ever questioned whether Bowie was really doing it. That seamless illusion represents practical filmmaking at its most elegant and deceptive. Number 12. Fireys used an old-school trick, the wild fiery sequence, where bizarre creatures remove their own heads and limbs while singing, looks like something that would require extensive digital manipulation. Yet this chaotic scene was achieved entirely through practical means, using a technique that dates back to the earliest days of cinema and theatrical performance. The secret was black velvet. Puppeteers dressed entirely in black performed against matching black backgrounds, rendering themselves invisible to the camera. This allowed them to manipulate the fiery puppets in ways that seemed impossible, tossing heads and body parts while remaining completely unseen. The technique required precise lighting and careful camera positioning to maintain the effect. What makes this approach remarkable is how well it still holds up decades later. Digital effects often age poorly as technology advances, but practical tricks like these retain their charm because they exist in physical space. The fireys feel tangible and present in a way that computer-generated creatures rarely achieve. It's a testament to creative problem-solving, using old methods to create something that still feels fresh and wonderfully strange. Number 13. Bowie quoted a 1940s movie. Hidden within the playful chaos of Magic Dance lies a clever reference that most viewers completely miss. During the song, a particular line of dialogue wasn't invented for the film at all. It was borrowed from a classic Hollywood production made decades earlier, revealing David Bowie's deep appreciation for cinema history. The reference traces back to the 1947 film The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer, starring Cary Grant. A memorable exchange from that comedy found its way into the Goblin throne room scene, filtered through Bowie's theatrical delivery. It was exactly the kind of obscure homage that delighted Bowie, who loved layering his work with unexpected cultural connections and winks to the past. Most audiences experience Magic Dance as pure fun without ever catching the hidden nod. But for those familiar with classic Hollywood, The reference adds another dimension to an already rich sequence. It shows that even in the film's silliest moments, there were thoughtful choices being made beneath the surface. Bowie wasn't just performing, he was celebrating the cinematic traditions that had inspired him throughout his career. Number 14. Bowie became the baby's voice. Working with infant actors presents unique challenges that no amount of planning can fully overcome. Baby Toby needed to make various sounds throughout the film, but getting a real baby to vocalize on cue proved nearly impossible. The production faced a genuine problem, until David Bowie offered an unexpected and rather amusing solution. Bowie volunteered to record the baby sounds himself. Rather than spending endless hours trying to capture usable audio from an uncooperative infant, the production simply had their leading man gurgle, coo, and babble into a microphone. It was an unconventional approach that showcased Bowie's willingness to do absolutely whatever the film required, regardless of dignity. The recording session reportedly produced plenty of laughter among the crew members present. Watching a glamorous rock legend make baby noises was exactly the kind of absurd moment that defined the production's spirit. Bowie never took himself too seriously, and his playful attitude helped maintain morale throughout difficult shooting days. The vocals he provided blend seamlessly into the film, and virtually nobody watching suspects they're actually hearing the Goblin King himself. Number 15. Jareth watches from the walls. Sharp-eyed viewers have long suspected that something strange lurks within the labyrinth's twisted architecture. Hidden throughout the maze's walls, rocks, and scenery are subtle images of Jareth's face, watching Sarah's every move even when he's nowhere to be seen on screen. These embedded faces weren't accidents, they were deliberately placed by the production design team. The hidden Jareth serve a psychological purpose beyond mere Easter eggs. They reinforce the idea that the Goblin King controls everything within his domain, that escape is impossible because he exists everywhere simultaneously. Sarah is never truly alone in her journey, even when she believes she's making progress. The walls themselves belong to her antagonist, silently observing her struggles. Once you notice these faces, rewatching the film becomes an entirely different experience. They appear in stone formations, in the patterns of shadows, and within the organic shapes of the labyrinth's impossible geometry. This attention to detail rewards devoted fans who return to the movie again and again, discovering new secrets each time. It's exactly the kind of layered craftsmanship that transforms a good fantasy film into an enduring obsession. Number 16. Bowie was nothing like Jareth. On screen, the Goblin King radiates menace, seduction, and cruel amusement. He toys with Sarah, manipulates her emotions, and rules his kingdom with theatrical tyranny. Audiences could easily assume that playing such a character required tapping into similar qualities off-camera. The reality couldn't have been more different. David Bowie was remarkably gentle throughout the entire production. Cast and crew members consistently described Bowie as patient, kind, and genuinely collaborative. Despite being the biggest star on set by far, he never acted superior or demanded special treatment. He learned the names of technicians and puppeteers, engaged in conversations between takes, and treated everyone with equal respect. His presence lifted morale during the production's most difficult and exhausting stretches. Bowie's warmth extended particularly to his young co-star. He understood that Jennifer Connelly was navigating an overwhelming experience and went out of his way to make her comfortable. Their scenes together required trust, and Bowie worked carefully to ensure she felt safe throughout the process. That professionalism and humanity behind the scenes made Jareth's on-screen menace even more impressive. It was pure performance, crafted by someone nothing like the villain he portrayed so convincingly. Number 17. Hoggle was a technical nightmare. Creating a believable fantasy creature is difficult enough, but Hoggle presented challenges that pushed puppet engineering to its absolute limits. The grumpy dwarf needed to convey complex emotions, interact physically with human actors, and appear convincingly alive in extended close-up shots. Achieving all of this required innovations that had never been attempted before on this scale. Inside the Hoggle suit was performer Shari Weiser, who controlled the body movements and walked through scenes. But the face, that remarkably expressive face, required an entire team working in concert. Remote-controlled mechanisms handled different facial features, with multiple puppeteers operating various elements simultaneously from off-camera. Coordination between all these operators had to be flawless to create seamless expressions. The technical demands meant that even simple scenes took enormous effort to execute properly. Every blink, every frown, every subtle shift in Hoggle's expression required precise teamwork and extensive rehearsal. The engineering team constantly modified and improved systems throughout production as new challenges emerged. Their dedication paid off spectacularly. Hoggle remains one of the most emotionally convincing puppet characters ever filmed, a testament to innovation born from creative desperation and relentless problem-solving. Number 18. Baby Toby baptized the Goblin King. Working with infants guarantees unpredictability, and the production learned this lesson in a particularly memorable way. The baby playing Toby couldn't be directed, couldn't hit marks, and certainly couldn't be expected to behave professionally. During one scene with David Bowie, the infant delivered a moment that would become legendary among the crew members present. The baby urinated directly on Bowie during filming. It happened without warning, as these things always do, leaving the Goblin King's elaborate costume soaked in a decidedly unglamorous manner. The moment could have provoked anger or frustration from a lesser performer, especially given the time required for costume changes and scene resets that would inevitably follow. Instead, Bowie reportedly found the entire situation hilarious. His laughter broke any tension on set and turned an awkward accident into a cherished production memory. The incident became a running joke throughout the remaining shoot, bringing levity to difficult days. It perfectly encapsulated the unpredictable nature of filmmaking. Even the most carefully planned scenes can be derailed by an infant with unfortunate timing. Bowie's graceful reaction only deepened the crew's affection for their leading man. Number 19. Sarah's room explains the whole film. The opening scene offers far more information than most viewers realize on first watch. Sarah's bedroom appears briefly before her journey begins, seemingly just establishing her as a typical teenager, surrounded by typical possessions. But careful examination reveals something extraordinary. Nearly everything she encounters in the labyrinth already exists in that room, hiding in plain sight. Toys on her shelves include figures resembling Hoggle, Ludo, and Sir Didymus. A statue of the Goblin King watches from a corner. An Escher print hangs on her wall, foreshadowing the impossible staircases of the film's climax. Even the labyrinth itself appears as a decorative bookend. These details were meticulously placed by the production design team to reward attentive viewers and suggest something profound about Sarah's journey. The implications transform how the entire story can be interpreted. If every element of the labyrinth exists in Sarah's room, perhaps the adventure represents an internal journey rather than a literal one. She might be navigating her own imagination, confronting parts of herself through fantasy. This reading reframes the film as psychological drama disguised as adventure, a story about growing up, letting go of childhood, and discovering inner strength. The room tells you everything, if you know how to look. Number 20. Hoggle was lost for decades. When production wrapped, the elaborate Hoggle puppet was carefully stored along with other valuable props from the film. He was an irreplaceable piece of cinema history, a technical marvel that had required countless hours to design, build, and operate. Then, somehow, he simply vanished. For years, nobody knew where Hoggle had gone or what had happened to him. The mystery persisted for over a decade, with fans and collectors speculating about his fate. Some assumed he'd been destroyed or discarded. Others hoped he was sitting in a private collection somewhere, waiting to be rediscovered. The truth, when it finally emerged, was stranger than anyone had imagined. Hoggle turned up at an unclaimed baggage center in Alabama, apparently lost somewhere in transit and never retrieved. The discovery made headlines and sparked efforts to restore the deteriorating puppet. Years of improper storage had taken their toll, but Hoggle's journey wasn't over. He eventually found his way to proper preservation, a rescued artifact from a beloved film. The strange odyssey from film set to lost luggage facility somehow perfectly suited a character defined by grumpiness and bad luck. Even off-screen, Hoggle couldn't catch a break, but he survived to tell the tale. Number 21. George Lucas saved the final cut. Principal photography was complete, but the movie wasn't finished yet. Jim Henson faced the enormous task of assembling countless hours of footage into a coherent story. The editing process proved more challenging than anticipated, with early cuts running too long and failing to maintain the pacing the story required. Something wasn't working, and Henson knew it needed outside perspective. George Lucas stepped in as more than just an executive producer lending his name to the project. He took an active role in the editing room, offering suggestions that would reshape the final film significantly. Lucas understood blockbuster pacing in ways few filmmakers could match, having revolutionized it himself with Star Wars. His notes helped tighten sequences, clarify story beats, and maintain momentum throughout Sarah's journey. The collaboration wasn't about Lucas taking over, It was about two visionary filmmakers combining their strengths during a critical phase. Henson brought artistic imagination and emotional depth, while Lucas contributed his mastery of structure and audience engagement. Without this partnership, the movie might have felt slower, more indulgent, less effective at pulling viewers through its fantastical world. The final cut bears both their fingerprints, blending Henson's heart with Lucas's instinct for what keeps audiences watching. What makes Labyrinth special isn't just its stunning puppetry or David Bowie's magnetic performance, it's the layers hidden beneath the surface. From a chaotic script to legal battles that nearly ended everything, from a box office failure to cultural immortality, this film was forged through struggle and unwavering creative vision. Hidden faces watch from the walls, a teenager's bedroom predicts her entire journey, and practical effects still outshine modern technology decades later. The Labyrinth keeps its secrets well, revealing them only to those who look closely. If this journey through the maze surprised you, hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden stories behind your favorite films. Which secret changed how you see Labyrinth forever? Share your answer in the comments. The Goblin King is always listening.